Ya.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Nah,
So today we are gonna explain our material, which is teaching how to teach grammar in TEFL. And the material that will be presented is one of which the definition of grammar itself, and then the three dimension of grammar, and then the discourse, learning and teaching in grammar, and then form focused instruction and the approaches, and then the feedbacks on error. And then the last one, there are several grammar classroom technique. And then before the ending of this material, there will be 5 questions. Okay, so for the first material will be presented by Delphian. Delphian, the time is yours.
Okay, thanks, Yazid. The first material is uh, no. Before we start delve into future material, let's see what is definition and etymological of grammar. Next slide, please. So, etymologically, or origin of word, grammar come from old French word grammaire. I'm not sure myself how to pronounce the French, but it come from Latin word grammatique, techne, that mean art of letter, or grammat, which mean letter of alphabet or written thing. That means grammar in itself is something related to alphabet, letter, or written. The definition of grammar in English, according to Oxford Language Dictionary, is the whole systems and structure of language or of language in general. Next slide. Like most of things in this earth, grammar also had three dimensions: its form, meaning, and use. Form is the structure of sentence on how language is arranged. Example that is in here is I like cranberry. The subject is I, the verb is like, and cranberry as an object. This means the structure of word is as subject, verb, and object. Other example in more complex sentences is let's say I am happy because we won the match. The subject is I, am is a verb, happy is an adjective, because is a conjunction that linking two different sentences, I think. We is the pronouns, won is a verb, and the game is an object. That too is just few example of many structure in the English grammar. And the next is meaning. Meaning is how each word means. For example, here is that is correct. That refer to previous sentences that happened before the sentences here is ucharat is a particular state, and correct mean that is correct, right. Other example is no, he is on fire. He refer to someone that is probably male. Is well, it's also a particular state. On is subject condition. Fire is a flame or hot thing. Based on this, we can say someone is born alive. But that might be not true because words change meaning when they are paired with different words or in different usage or contexts, which we'll tackle after this. The next one is use. Use is a situation when the language is used. For example, he is on fire. It might be mean someone is born alive, but it is not. When you say to someone who had a good game or had a good time, you say he is on fire. The example in written in here is that is correct. When teachers say that to his student, it probably means his student answer is correct. Other example is that is enough. When you say to your waiter that pouring wine or water, that means I have enough water, please stop pouring it. It's unlikely you say that. Instead, you clip it into that is enough. So the usage is different when you say to someone, you know, when you say to waiter mean like that. But when you say to, let's say, someone is beating someone, and you say to person that beating, that is enough. That means the person beat it had it is as enough, and please stop beat him. Thank you. I'll give it back to Yazid.
Okay, thank you, Dalvian. And the next material will be presented by Fabriano. Fabriano, the time is yours.
My name is Fabriano. I'm gonna present the discourse in learning and teaching grammar. Discourse is an instance of spoken or written language with describable internal relationship of form and meaning that relate concurrently to an external communicative function or purpose and a given audience or interlocutor. So why is discourse is needed in teaching and learning? In teaching, discourse help teacher deliver material in ways that are relevant and meaningful to students. In teaching, discourse use meaningful context. So that's discourse-based grammar instructor place. So discourse place grammar in the context, and learners see how grammatical choices contribute to the overall meaning and flow of a text. Discourse also focus on the communication focus by analyzing the real-world example so that the student can understand how grammar choices help achieve communicative goal like persuading or informing. And the discourse is active learning, so discourse analysis activities encourage students to discover and discuss grammatical pattern on their own, fostering deeper understanding. How discourse is used in the grammar teaching. We can use discourse in grammar teaching for like analyzing text, so that student can examine text to identify how grammatical features contribute to ideas and relationship between sentences. And discourse can be genre focused, so focusing on specific genre like article or mail, so that show how grammar use varies depending on the communication situation. And then discourse also can be task-based learning, so activities involve involve like creating dialogue, writing email, or summarizing text, all while practicing targeted grammatical structure. So that teaching grammar using discourse showing how language structure are used in real life conversation. In learning grammar, discourse in learning grammar help the student to understand grammar concepts better as they see them in the context of everyday use. The benefit of learn discourse-based grammar learning is improve grammar accuracy in real world use so that they don't only understand the context of the grammar, but they can use the grammar in everyday use outside the classroom. And then uh, discourse-based grammar learning can enhance understanding of how language functions. They can know how to use this sentence, how to use this word properly, so that there is no misunderstanding. And then the last one is increase confidence in communication skill. After they know uh, how to use the word, after they know how the language function, the student can gain more confidence in communication skill because they already know the language they use. They can also speak more fluently in everyday use in real world context. Overall, this course-based grammar teaching helps students move beyond memorization and develop a practical understanding. So the student not only memorize the grammar, but they can use it. So and develop a practical understanding of how language work in communication. The conclusion is that this course-based grammar teaching and learning uh, may have a purpose to make the student can communicate with that language in everyday use, not only in the classroom. I think that's all for me. I give it back to Yazid.
Okay, thank you, Fabriano. And for the next material will be presented by Rohaita Camila. Next slide, please. And it will be about the form focus instruction. The time is yours.
All right. Thank you, Yazid. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Nur Haikal Kamil. The material that I am going to talk about is approaches in teaching grammars and vocabulary, mainly approaches to form-focused instruction. Form-focused instruction, or FFI, defined as any plan or incidental instructional activity that is intended to induce language learners to pay attention to linguistic forms. So FFI approaches vary from traditional structure-based, focusing primarily on form, or more communicative approaches with attention to form while students are engaged in activities that are meaning focused. Cara singkatnya, approach ini berbasis struktur yang diaktifkan, yang memusatkan perhatian pada bentuk bahasa seperti tata bahasa dan aturan-aturannya. Sehingga pelajaran menitik beratkan pada memahami bagaimana kalimat dibangun secara gramatikal dengan sedikit perhatian pada situasi komunikatif atau real life situation. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are the approaches to focus on FFI. Firstly, we have explicit presentation of forms. So explicit instruction attempts to help learners develop metalinguistic awareness of a rule that can be carried out deductively or inductively. In a deductive explicit presentation, firstly, what is deductive in the context of language learning? The definition is teacher and students formulate a rule and then check it in a grammar book and look at example that illustrate the rule. So means the teachers begins a lesson by announcing the grammar focus The teacher might then write examples of the target structure on the board or show a grammar chart or table in the textbook. Afterwards, the teacher would follow up with an explicit explanation of the rule in detail, including the form, meaning, and use. Jadi, guru dan siswa bersama-sama merumuskan aturan tata bahasa, memeriksanya dalam buku tata bahasa atau buku grammar, dan melihat contoh-contoh yang mengilustrasikan aturan tersebut. Pendekatan deduktif secara eksplisit memberikan urutan langkah-langkah yang jelas, dimulai dari pengumuman fokus tata bahasa atau poin yang ingin dipelajari, diikuti dengan penjelasan rinci tentang aturan tersebut dan penerapannya dalam contoh-contoh konkret. Okay. In an inductive explicit presentation, again, what is inductive in the context of language learning is students collect further example, illustrating the patterns and formulate a general rule. So the definition of it is the teacher tries to elicit information from the student by presenting example sentences, sometimes by using input enhancement techniques such as consciousness raising. Jadi di dalam pendekatan ini siswa diminta untuk mengumpulkan contoh tambahan seperti yang menggambarkan pola-pola sesuai dengan struktur kalimat dan merumuskan aturan umum dari pola tersebut. Jadi peran guru di sini perannya adalah menyuruh para siswa mencari contoh tersebut, kemudian meminta mereka untuk mengidentifikasikan pola atau aturan umum dari contoh-contoh yang mereka temukan, sehingga membantu mereka memahami konsep yang diajarkan dengan lebih mendalam. Okay, the second approach is implicit presentation of forms. In an implicit approach to grammar instruction, the teacher does not employ structural analysis of technical terms to explain the linguistic rules. Instead, the target form is used in the utterances made to communicate with students. Pendekatan implisit ini fokus pada penggunaan bahasa dalam konteks komunikatif atau paparan, tanpa penekanan yang kuat pada penjelasan formal tata bahasa atau grammar, sehingga siswa dapat belajar secara intuitif melalui pengalaman langsung dengan bahasa yang digunakan dalam situasi sehari-hari. Okay, the last approach is focus on form. The definition is this approach attempts to induce learners incidental learning by drawing their attention to target forms while they are engaged in communicative activities. So the emphasis is on the learners noticing the knowledge about grammatical features, which is necessary for successful target language use and has been influential in task-based approaches to grammar instruction. Jadi dalam konteks ini, coach ini mengacu pada proses si pembelajar atau si learner dalam menangkap fitur-fitur spesifik dari input bahasa yang mereka targetkan dengan cara mendengar atau membaca, dan memberikan perhatian sadar atau awareness pada fitur-fitur tersebut agar dapat dimasukkan ke dalam proses pembelajaran. Jadi approach ini mengajak si learner atau pembelajar tadi untuk secara sadar memperhatikan aturan-aturan tata bahasa, fitur-fitur bahasa lainnya saat mereka berkomunikasi untuk dapat menginternalisasikan aturan-aturan tersebut secara alami melalui pengalaman langsung dengan bahasa yang digunakan dalam situasi komunikatif atau real life situation. I think that's cover all the material for me. I'm giving back the time to Yazid. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Kamil. And the next presentation is going to be about on how we giving feedback on errors and it will be presented by Raffi. Raffi, the time is yours.
All right, thank you, Yazid. So my name is Raffi Hamdi Andika. So the next material is about feedback on errors. So before we talk about feedback on errors, we need to know about what is feedback in general. So feedback is a response at the person activity with the prompt of helping and then adjust to become more effective. Feedback usually has various form. It is like appreciative, evaluate, and coaching. So feedback is bisa dikatakan sebagai sebuah cara, the way of a teacher, tutor give their students or their tutor or their learners an input, masukan, advice, or even instruction to their learner or students. In the end, that usually given in the end of their learners learning activity. So tujuannya dari diberikan feedback ini agar si murid atau learners itu know about what is that enough or that already enough dalam learning activity mereka gitu. So they know about the priority that they should be learn more based on what they have learned. And then in feedback we mengacu kepada yang namanya ladder of feedback. So dalam ladder of feedback ini secara simpelnya adalah sebuah steps, yang mana steps ini itu berurutan. So in ladder of feedback, there are actually 5 points. So the first point is clarification. In clarification, teacher or tutor asking their students, the learners, about why did they answer the question in that way. Mengapa mereka menjawab pertanyaan seperti itu? Kita menanya, gurunya menanya seperti itu agar so the teacher know misunderstanding atau kesalahan apa yang dilakukan oleh our learners or our students. And then the second one is grading atau menilai. So in grading, the teacher can dapat memuji. We can grading their answer. Kita dapat nilai hasil pekerjaan mereka. Kita bisa mungkin melihat ini sudah bagus, tapi kurang tepat gitu. We also as a teacher never say it's totally wrong or it's wrong. Jangan kita kata itu sama atau salah. We can say rather it's quite good. It's good but it's not quite right. Jadi sudah benar tapi kurang tepat gitu. Jadi kita bisa menilainya dengan seperti itu. And then for the third one is attention. So in attention, teacher can be correcting hasil tugas atau hasil pekerjaan dari si murid itu agar si teacher can analyze what is wrong. Or is there any mistakes that our learners do? Kesalahan apa yang our learners or our students itu lakukan di tugas mereka. And then for the fourth one is advice atau saran. Jadi dalam step ini teacher itu dapat memberikan advice. They can give advice of what is the correct thing, what is the correct way, how to fix it, why does it wrong gitu, kenapa itu salah, bagaimana cara memperbaikinya, dan kita juga mengasih tahu apa yang salah gitu. And then for the last is appreciation. So in appreciation, we can give them apresiasi. Kita bisa memberikan apresiasi kepada our learners seperti good, give it up. So our learners can be more motivated in their learning activity. And then we talk about feedback on errors. So what is feedback on errors? Feedback on errors specifically thinking about mistakes and inaccuracies in someone's work or behavior. So secara simpelnya feedback on errors ini adalah memberikan teacher memberikan masukan, instruksi atau arahan kepada si murid atas kesalahan yang mereka lakukan. Jadi teacher can give some input based on what their errors do, gitu. Apa yang error yang mereka lakukan, jadi si teacher bisa memberikan masukan. Bagi misalnya as a example, we can say that the teacher should say it's this is not the right way. So the teacher can say this is the right way. Jadi bisa memberikan ini bukan yang tepat. Jadi yang tepatnya seperti ini gitu. So in feedback on errors, determining which specific type of error correction is most beneficial and under what circumstance the answer to which is unclear and has not been resolved. Therefore, it is desirable to employ a variety of feedback options, such as recasting, self-correction, and metalinguistic. Jadi, dalam feedback on errors itu dibagi menjadi dua, yaitu dalam hal oral maupun dalam hal writing. So in oral feedback on errors itu tergantung dari kesalahan, type of error that our student do, berdasarkan kesalahan yang our students lakukan gitu. Misal dari hal katanya atau dalam keseluruhan kalimat. For example, if we found an error in our learners when our learners say something like a sentence and then we notice there are something wrong like in the word, we can ask our learners to repeat the word until it is right, sampai benar. Kita suruh untuk mengulanginya hingga benar gitu. Kita juga berikan contoh, and then jika dalam hal kalimat kita bisa meminta mengulangi kalimat secara keseluruhan. Sama juga seperti yang tadi, kita minta ulangi seperti yang benar, tapi kita juga kasih tahu, we give the example, the right ways. Gitu. And then, dalam hal writing, in writing feedback on errors, it is, in this case, feedback and correction is given at the end of the work, or at least after one or two sheets have been written. So, this is dilakukan agar si guru itu bisa menganalisis gitu kesalahan, bisa menemukan kesalahan secara keseluruhan. Kesalahan itunya apa yang rata-rata yang dilakukan oleh si murid. Jadi so the teacher can be more focused on what their learners yang paling sering mereka lakukan lah. Jadi gurunya bisa menganalisis tidak satu-satu tapi secara keseluruhan, bisa tahu fokusnya di mana kesalahan yang our learners do itu. And then the next slide please. All right, so the next slide is based on Al-Jafre and Lentov. They developed 12 points of regulatory scale. The scale describes a range of corrective feedback strategies differing in their degree of explicitness with different degrees of scaffolding. The goal here is to achieve self-regulation through the learner's self-correction. So in 12-point regulatory scales, the goal is to achieve self-regulation through the learner's self-correction. So the learners can learners itu diharapkan dapat mengoreksi diri mereka sendiri, self-correction, supaya si guru lebih mandiri, but still with teacher or tutor monitoring. So in the 12 point in regulatory scale, there are 12 points. So the first one is construction of a collaborative frame prompt by the presence of the tutor as a potential dialogic. So in this point, guru meminta learners untuk berpasangan dan masing-masing pasangan itu bisa mengoreksi satu sama yang lain. Jadi mereka bisa secara tidak langsung bisa mengoreksi secara mandiri dan juga bisa menemukan kesalahan dengan teman sesamanya gitu. And then for the second one, it's prompt or focus reading on the sentence that contains the error by the tutor. Jadi ini learners juga diminta untuk membaca atau memfokuskan kepada bacaan yang dikira yang dikira salah oleh the teacher. Jadi bisa diminta si learners untuk mencari kesalahan mereka sendiri, tapi dikasih tahu di bagian mana yang salah. And then for the third one is tutor indicates that something may be wrong in the segment. For example, is there anything wrong in the sentence? Jadi si teacher tidak mengasih tahu secara spesifik kesalahannya, tapi mereka seperti mengasih clue gitu. Apakah ada yang salah gitu. Jadi mereka kayak si teacher mengajak learners untuk mencari kesalahan gitu. Jadi, and then for the fourth one is to reject unsuccessful attempts at recognizing the error. Jadi dalam hal ini tutor menolak hasil atau tugas yang dari learners yang dirasa oleh tutor itu salah. Jadi ini juga sebagai clue kepada si learners agar si learners itu sadar kalau pasti ada kesalahan dalam hasil atau tugas mereka itu. And then for the fifth one, tutor narrows down the location of the error. Nah, dalam hal ini tutor itu memberitahu kesalahan apa yang ada di tugas mereka, tapi tetap tidak spesifik, cuman seperti memberiku ada kesalahan di bagian sentence-nya, atau ada kesalahan seperti di dalam tenses or dalam hal kata kerjanya. Jadi cuman mengasih clue juga. And then for the sixth one, tutor indicates the nature of the error. It means that the error but does not identify the error. Ini sama seperti yang nomor 5. Jadi tutor tidak mengasih secara spesifik kesalahan yang dilakukan oleh si learners. Jadi si learner bisa mencari tahu sendiri kesalahan yang mereka lakukan. And then for the second one, and then for the tutor identifies the error. Jadi kalau nomor 5 dan 6 tadi mungkin masih tidak cukup atau masih tidak bisa si learner masih tidak bisa mencari kesalahannya, and then the tutor itself showing what is wrong with their assignment, with their schoolwork. And then for the eighth one, tutor reject learners unsuccessful attempt or correcting. Ini sama seperti nomor 4 ya. And then for the ninth, tutor provides clue to help the learners arrive at the corrective form. So in this point, the tutor or teacher mendampingi si learner untuk memperbaiki kesalahan yang tadi sudah diberitahu atau yang sudah dilakukan oleh si learners, mendampingi untuk memperbaiki kesalahan. And then the tenth is tutor provides the correct form. Jadi simpelnya dalam poin ini teacher itu memberikan contoh form yang benar. And then for the 11 is tutor provide some explanation for use of the correct form. Jadi tutor juga memberikan penjelasan cara menggunakan the correct form itu tadi seperti apa gitu, untuk menggantikan the mistake, kesalahan yang dilakukan oleh si murid. And then last is to provide example of the correct pattern when the other form of help fail to produce an appropriate responsive action. Jadi kalau misalnya semua si tadi itu masih tidak bisa membuat si anaknya itu tetap mencari kesalahannya tadi, masih tidak bisa memperbaiki kesalahannya gitu, masih mengulang. Jadi cara terakhirnya adalah tutor benar memberikan contoh kepada si murid, lalu membimbingnya untuk memperbaikinya, memberitahu kenapa ini salah, memberitahu the right way, and then pada akhirnya juga meminta si learners to menulis ulang gitu, dengan melihat contoh dari si teacher. Alright, that's the end of my material. I will give it back to Yazid. Thank you.
Okay, so the next material will be presented by Zafrin Ramadan and me. and we will discuss about the several technique in grammar teaching. Zafrin Ramadan, the time is yours.
Okay, thanks Yazid. Next is grammar classroom techniques. These are some sample techniques for teaching grammar, especially for helping learners notice and pay attention to grammatical features they need for the completion of given tasks. There are chart, object, maps and drawing, dialogues and conversation, input enhancement, input fluid, input processing, and dictogloss. Dan yang pertama adalah chart, object, maps, and drawing. Charts are visual tools that organize information clearly, can be used to highlight grammatical forms, vocabulary, or sentence structures. As you can see, the examples in here include frequency adverb chart, a table showing different frequency adverbs, like always, usually, sometimes, never, with example sentences. And now objects. Objects are physical items that can be used to teach vocabulary and grammar through direct interaction. They make learning more tangible, memorable. Examples include using actual clothing items to teach possessives. For example, whose glass is this? And the student said, these are Zofrin's glasses. And next, in the classroom items, using objects like books, pens, and desks to teach prepositions. For example, the book is on the desk. The pen is under the chair. Okay, next is maps. As you can see in the example here, maps are graphical representations of geographic areas that are used to teach spatial language, direction, and locations. As you can see in the examples, city map, teaching directions and prepositions of place. For example, go straight, turn left at the corner. The cafe is next to the cinema. And next is drawings. Drawing means using pictures to help students learn grammar. Example in the classroom scenes, a drawing of a classroom can help teach prepositions and classroom vocabulary. For example, the teacher is standing in front of the blackboard, or the book is on the desk. Okay, next. Teknik yang kedua adalah dialogues and conversation. For a half century, dialogues have been successfully to focus learner on form, meaning simultaneously. For beginner, given examples, models to practice with. These models are designed to help beginners by giving them a practical context, making the practice more meaningful. Even if the beginners do not fully understand all the vocabulary in these models, they can still benefit from working with them. The idea is that engaging with realistic example help learners to gradually understand and apply the language better over time, or bisa kita bilang real world context. For intermediate learners, dialogues and other conversation give learners a chance to confidently produce language and creatively modify example. Creatively modify example means changing or adapting sentence and phrases you learn in a new and different ways to fit your own situations. This help you practice and understand language better. Contoh creatively modify examples seperti if the original sentence is I like eating fried rice, we can creatively modify it. Like for example, I enjoy eating spicy fried rice at my favorite restaurant. In this modification, we add personal preference details that is spicy and a location that is favorite restaurant. This helps to practice understanding how to adapt sentence to different situations. Next, these are the example of dialogues and conversation. The example is present progressive future events. Students can listen to recorded conversations, read it, repeat it to get flow and practice it with different partners. As they improve, They can expand the conversation to share their own vacation plans. The focus is on using the present progressive for future events. But I have another example. Suppose your intermediate students have practiced this dialogue. How we, as a teacher, expand on the forms that have been practiced. What specific tasks or activities could we ask them to perform? What would we build communicatively on the dialogue? To expand on the dialogue, have students engage the activities that use the same form in a real-life context. They can role play by changing destinations and activities, discover their own future plan in pairs, and students can interview each other about their plans and present the information to the class, or write short paragraph about their upcoming week or holiday plans using the present progressive tense. These activities help students practice speaking, listening, and writing in a real-life context, reinforcing their understanding and use the present progressive tense or future events. Okay, next is the input. Yang ketiga adalah teknik input enhancement. It's a technique that involves highlighting or bold-facing certain target grammatical forms in a reading text, or stressing or slowing down or using hand gesture certain forms when speaking. As you can see the example, why it should be highlighted or bold. Input enhancement should be bold or highlighted to help learner notice and focus on specific grammatical forms or structures. This makes it easier for them to recognize and remember these forms, improving their understanding and usage in both written and spoken. By highlighting forms like has told, have look, will have to be, students can easily see the target structures and understand how they are used in the context. And you can guys see the example in the oral text, guru menekankan code untuk menyoroti kesalahan penggunaan catch oleh murid. Itu membantu memperbaiki kesalahan dan mengingat bentuk yang benar. I think that is enough for me. Thank you. I give it back to Yazid.
Okay, so for the next technique will be explained by me. Next slide, please. And this is one technique. It's called input flood. So input flood is a technique where texts are filled with a specific language pattern that shows up often. This frequent exposure makes the pattern stands out and helps learners start using it because they've seen or heard it many times. So as the name of the techniques implied, it's flooding. Jadi kita membanjiri siswa dengan sebuah input, tapi bukan hanya membanjiri dengan input tanpa ada makna apapun. Maka dari itu, so as you can see in the example, there's actually cara bagaimana untuk gurunya bisa menyampaikan cara teknik ini bekerja. To the teacher, the target forms below are the English definite and indefinite particles. The sample text includes frequent instances of these target forms. Jadi bisa kita lihat di bawah, a chipmunk sat on some branches in grade 3. So as you can see, most of the forms are used in a more simpler form, and the meaning, dan juga itu form yang dimasukin ke dalam input flood ini biasanya adalah form-form yang biasanya emang sering ditemukan oleh siswa. Jadi dengan dibanjiri dengan input ini bakal membantu learners bisa mengidentifikasi pattern dari grammar tersebut. As it explained, this frequent exposure makes the pattern stand out and helps learners start using it because they've seen or heard it many times. Dan salah satu sugesti untuk menguatkan input float ini juga bisa dengan cara misal untuk mungkin sebuah assignment itu bisa dengan assignment berupa fill in the blanks. So like for the example, there's a paragraph of a sentence. A chipmunk sat on some branches in a great big tree. It was very hungry, so it decided to leave, blah, blah, blah. And so we can actually blank out some of the sentence or grammar form in there and then let the learners figure it out. What should they fill in the blank with? And the next technique, next slide, please. Okay, so the next technique is input processing. In input processing, it is mainly focused on the meaning of the language rather than so grammar is still a main point. So as it explained here, technique that helps language learner better understand both the meaning and the structure of language input by breaking it down into simpler parts and focusing on connecting form, grammar, with function, meaning in real world situation. Jadi ada contohnya di bawah itu, grammar sentence yang dikasih itu lebih simple, tapi ya sebenarnya lebih ditekankan di sini adalah fungsi dari penggunaan grammar tersebut. Jadi dibanding mereka harus mengetahui strukturnya, mereka menjawab biasa apa dalam sentence ini penggunaannya itu dalam apa timeline itu apakah sekarang, present, atau before, which is past. Dan dalam contohnya ini mereka bisa mengidentifikasikan yang mana present tense dan yang mana past tense. And then the last one, next slide please. Dictogloss. So dictogloss is a teaching technique where learners listen to a passage being read aloud, take notes, then work in groups to reconstruct the passage as accurately as possible. Ini sering ya biasanya digunakan di SD. Kalau pernah dulu itu biasanya gurunya itu membacakan sebuah paragraf dan muridnya itu disuruh mengikuti sambil mencatat apa yang disebutkan oleh gurunya seakurat mungkin. So here there's actually the procedure on how we can use this technique, preparation and warm-up, discuss the importance of friendship and the different ways in which someone can be a friend, examine the different characteristics of a good friend. Also, tell the class that they are going to hear a text on friendship. Ask them what they guess the text would include. Explain difficult vocabulary such as trust, loyalty, sincerity, and considerate. Jadi pada preparation dan warm-up itu sendiri aja kita sudah ngasih ke learners itu sebuah konteks tentang apa yang akan dibacakan oleh kita sebagai teacher, dan juga kita juga nge-provide difficult vocabulary yang juga membantu memperluas pengetahuan vocabulary-nya, but that's not the case in here. That's not the main point in here. So dengan mengetahui konteks itu mereka akan apa ya? Itu akan membantu mereka dalam tahap berikutnya. Dictation. Read the text at a normal pace. Ask learner to jot down the words related to the content as you read. Jadi di sini kita membaca teks itu kan yang di atas itu tentang friendship, dan sambil kita membaca itu learners sambil menuliskan juga apa yang kita sebutkan. And then the reconstruction. Baru dibentuklah ask learners to form groups of 2 or 3 and pool their resources to reconstruct the text as closely as possible to the original. Jadi walaupun mereka nggak sepenuhnya dapat dengan full accuracy dalam meniru ulang paragraf yang kita bacakan, at least they know the context, the use of the grammar, or maybe they would use the correct grammar form. So the point of this is that we would enhance their understanding on the meaning, on the gimana ya, supaya learners itu paham dalam kapan menggunakan form ini dan kapan menggunakan form lainnya. Analysis and correction, when they finish, ask learners to analyze and compare their version, go around the class and help learners to correct their errors. Do not show learners the original text until after the text has been compared and analyzed. Jadi setelah selesai nih semua grup itu menuliskan teks mereka dan disuruh nge-compare antara grup yang sesama grup yang lain, dan setelah selesai di-compare dan dianalisis kira-kira yang mana yang benar penggunaan katanya, penggunaan formnya, dan secara konteks dan meaningnya seperti yang dimention pada materi awal tadi, baru kita tunjukkan original teksnya supaya mereka bisa menganalisis kembali. Oh ternyata begini ya penggunaan formnya, oh ternyata begini seharusnya ya gitu. And I think that's all for our material. After this, we have, so on the next slide, we have 5 questions. Next slide, please. So here are our questions that we would want the audience to answer on a paper. So the first question, from all the grammar classroom techniques provided in our presentation, yang tadi ya, which one is the best for adult students and explain why? Kan tadi ada 6 teknik, dari semua itu apakah yang manakah lebih pas untuk adult learners, and explain why, kenapa? Untuk teknik itu sebenarnya bisa mungkin digabungkan, nggak mesti harus berpacu kepada satu, but yeah, just choose one of it and explain why it is best for adult students. And the second one, imagine you're a teacher in a small town with student had 80% good student and the rest less good student, with only 40% of students had English skills. The students you teach is high schooler in grade 10 or 11. What's your approach to teach grammar to them? So ini berhubungan dengan mengajarkan TEFL untuk umur di tengah-tengah ya, antara adult atau children. And what is the best approach? Again, it's approach dari teknik atau FFI tadi. The third one, illustrate how charts, object, maps, and drawings can be used to teach grammatical structures. Please provide a specific example. Jadi tadi ada salah satu tekniknya pertama tadi kan ada charts, object, and maps, and drawing. Itu bisa berikan contoh. Dan ya itu aja. Next question. 4. What are the advantages and disadvantages of using an implicit approach to grammar instruction? Provide a classroom scenario where this approach might be effective. Jadi ini bisa dibikinkan sebuah skenario ya, mungkin kayak cerita atau case skenario dari advantages or disadvantages dari implicit approach to grammar instruction. And then 5, how does the explicit presentation of grammar forms differ in terms of deductive and inductive methods? Give an example of a lesson plan for each method. Jadi tadi kan ada implicit dan explicit ya. Pada explicit dijelaskan ada deductive dan inductive method. Berikan contohnya untuk lesson plan dari setiap method itu dari kedua ya, deductive dan inductive. And I think that's it. That's all from us. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.